Jayhawk Nation is incredible. And it's not surprising that people are turning out because our fan support has always been amazing. And you take out the insane student section, and really, I've never experienced anything like I'm hoarse because I have to yell at our players on second base, like to have them hear me.
Paid all who enter and beware this podcast. That's right. This is the Paid Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer, and I'm here with Kevin Flaherty. And as promised, we have a very special guest joining us today, none other than the head coach of the Kansas baseball team, Dan Fitzgerald. Coach, it's been a pretty hard start to your season so far. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, you guys won last night 29-1. Obviously, the bats were working, the pitching was working. So I guess my question is, what didn't work? What didn't go right yesterday?
Well, yesterday it all went right. It's funny how the game started. We didn't play well on Tuesday. It's kind of the first time this year that we've had some games where it's been ugly and we've won ugly, but we lost ugly on Tuesday. And in the first yesterday, we give up a run. We give up a leadoff walk double. I think we had 3 walks in the inning, and we wiggle out of it with 1 run, and we didn't score in the first either. So they kind of had a chance in the first to, jump out by a couple, but we minimized the damage, and then, our bullpen really settled it. And yesterday was we were going to throw 7 different guys. That was kind of the plan going into the day. But no, yesterday was one of those days that, everything went right, and the energy was, the guys were bonkers yesterday, which was really fun. And yeah, yesterday was a special day. I'll never forget that one.
Well, and part of that was you did something that's only never been done in NCAA history, which is hit 5 consecutive home runs in an inning. And I just want to put that in perspective. That's not 5 home runs in an inning. That's not 5 home runs over the course of the game. It's 5 back to back to back to back to back. What was that like? Have you ever experienced it? I mean, obviously you probably haven't experienced anything like that, but what was that like just watching it from the dugout?
No, I've been in some crazy games, and we hit back to back to back earlier in the year, and been a part of a number of those. Had a couple of those against us, but the first two. The first 2 went up, and then the third one, and it kind of the chatter in the dugout was like, "Oh man, we did that last week," and blah blah blah. And then the fourth one went, and then it became a deal of they're like, "Hey, don't screw it up." And then then the next guy hits one, and the crazy one is that Barth got his swing off too. Like he just missed one. So the guys were super locked in, and we worked so hard on their approach at the plate. Coach Hancock does such an amazing job with those hitters. But yeah, the guys were so into it. And yeah, just a really kind of crazy moment. Like when the ball went up and you're like, this isn't really happening again, is it? And then, it at US Bank Stadium, your perception's a little off because it's enormous. You're playing inside an NFL stadium. So you can't, like when it's hit, you think it's gone, but you can't necessarily tell the left. And then, you look at the reaction of the outfielder. And so, yeah, it was awesome. Great day.
For those who are kind of just coming into KU baseball, heading into this season, you guys had signed, I think, the top JUCO class or one of the top couple JUCO classes for a few years now. Why was that such an important way for you to go and an important way for you to mine talent and kind of help turn this thing around a little bit?
Yeah, I think it started with COVID and everyone getting an extra year, and then, a bunch of guys getting multiple years. The college baseball system just became really old, and, it kind of a combination of COVID and then a 5-round draft, and then the draft got shrunk to 20. So you went from 40 rounds to 5 rounds to 20 rounds. So there was just this total influx of numbers into college baseball. And then the portal changed it to where, it's just you can transfer right away. And so it just became a different deal in terms of age. And we kind of looked at it right away of, hey, we can add talent. But the gamble then is you're adding older guys that you're replacing at a more consistent level. But we thought that's kind of the way this is headed. And so the JUCO thing, the portal thing, we've got 2 everyday guys in our lineup who were Division II All-Americans last year. So I think it's created some really cool opportunities for guys to experience baseball at a level that they may not have otherwise had the opportunity to. But for us, we just looked on day one of the job and said, we need to get best available every single time. And where is the biggest pocket of best available right now? And it was in the JUCO system and it was in the portal. And, there are times I think where people think, we haven't done much with high school guys, and yet we've had back-to-back Big 12 freshmen of the year. So we've done a good job in the high school space. We've just done probably lower numbers with where we're at in this rebuild. And, it'll cycle back someday. I'm sure at some point, just like in all things, it always cycles back to maybe a happy medium or whatever. But right now we're in the rat race, just trying to find the best players available. And we've been so fortunate to find some older guys. The other thing with the JUCO deal is there's a grit and toughness and just a humility to those guys, because you have to love playing baseball to do it in junior college, because you don't have the flash and flair that you have at this level. So, we've just found that a lot of those guys are really good fits for our culture and my whole staff, me included. I spent a lot of time in junior college, and my entire staff did. So, we've got a lot of JUCO blood in this office, and I think it draws those guys in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Coach, I was curious to that point about, you mentioned trying to find the best players available. Well, what's that scouting process looking like for you guys? I mean, I'm sure, what are you looking for in terms of players, in terms of, you mentioned culture as well. Like, how does that process unfold for you as you're looking for those types of players that you believe can join your team and make an impact?
Yeah, well, it starts with makeup and who they are as people. And, the 2 things that you have to do, non-negotiables, foundational things inside of our program is, 1, you have to be an unbelievable teammate. And 2, you have to play incredibly hard. And those things cover a multitude of things. If you're a great teammate, you're going to be on time. If you're a great teammate, you're going to, you're going to pick up after yourself, blah, blah, blah. But I think that when you start there with makeup and look at, okay, is this guy going to be a great teammate? You end up at least pulling people into the same pen of, hey, we're all like-minded in terms of our approach of what we want to do. And, we talked yesterday before the game of, when you go up to bat and you think you have to carry the entire team with you at bat, that's pretty tough. And you go on the mound and think, hey, man, I got to win this game by myself. Like, that's hard. When you have the humility to realize you are one of 9 guys in the lineup and all you have to do is your job, or you're a pitcher, and all you have to do is get the guy out in front of you, and you're doing it for your team, it takes on a little bit, it's not easier, but you're freed then to just compete for your team. So, but you can't do that unless you have great character and integrity and makeup. So we start there, and then, we've got a really extensive process on the player evaluation side of what are the tools, how do they play? If we project a guy to be a power hitter, do the numbers support that? If we think it's a guy that's going to be on base all the time, like, has he actually been on base all the time? What does the defense look like? Pitching, all my answers kind of get boring at some point, because all I talk about is the strike zone. So that's really the only thing that matters in baseball. Offensively, if you win the strike zone, you usually win. And then on the mound, if you win the strike zone, you usually win. So we try to actually put metrics to that. I want everyone to throw 100 miles an hour, but they got to throw it over the 17 inches of the plate. And so we kind of filter everything back to, can this guy win the strike zone if it's a hitter or a pitcher? And then, where does their skill set defensively line up? And we're not afraid to gamble there and do some creative things defensively. But, it's a long process. John Coyne and I talk 50 times a day about recruiting, and Brandon was a recruiting coordinator before he got here, and Tyler was a recruiting coordinator, and Ryan is incredibly involved in it. So it's a nonstop conversation in the office.
The answer to this question may be controlling the strike zone, but you guys are 15-2. What do you attribute the most to your hot start so far?
Oh, I just think the guys love playing, and they love playing for each other, and they love to compete. There's I think about, sometimes you have to do something, and sometimes you get to do something. And I don't think our guys feel like they have to play baseball. I think they're thrilled to play baseball. We have an off day today. I think 40 guys would vote yes to play tonight. Like, they just love playing. They love being in the dugout with each other. They love to work, and we got home late last night. We're on the bus ride back from the airport at close to midnight, and they're playing Mafia or whatever game they play in the back of the bus, and it was so loud. Like, I was laughing with my staff, going, it's unbelievable the energy of a group of college guys who love being together. And so they've enjoyed the process. They've taken it, they've really taken all the propaganda of, hey, it's literally just today, and that's all we can worry about. And so I think they just love showing up, and they have a lot of fun together. There's a lot of great chemistry. Now, we're going to continue to face adversity, and that's the other thing that we just embrace. We talk all the time about, if you're not facing adversity right now, just wait 5 minutes, because it's just the nature of our sport. So they've embraced it. They love being with each other, and they love to compete.
Well, if you're enjoying this interview with Dan Fitzgerald as much as we are, you'll definitely enjoy some home field apparel. You can check that out at homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code PAYHEAT24. We've talked about it. They've got some great gear that you'll definitely be wanting to rocking at Hoagland Ballpark this spring if you haven't gotten out there yet. You want to look good doing it, and you can do it at homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code PAYHEAT24, 15% off your first order. Over 40-plus Kansas items to choose from, so be sure to find something that you enjoy. And, you'll look good for those KU baseball games. We're going to be talking more with Dan Fitzgerald coming up next. Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your number one source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We talked earlier about those 5 home runs consecutive you hit against Minnesota. Your team as a whole is top 15 in the country in home runs hit. What do you think has gone into that, and what's been successful for your guys in hitting the long ball so far this season?
Yeah, Coach Hancock, again, fantastic hitting coach, and he's probably in the cage right now with someone. He's always down there, and the guys they just kind of live down there, and it's kind of what they do. I think we look a lot at how do you produce runs, and what's the most efficient way to do it, and we never talk about hitting home runs. We talk a lot about driving the ball and splitting a gap, and kind of stealing from my old boss, Dan Hefner at Dallas Baptist. If I could have one stat at the end of the year that would guarantee that you had a great offense, it would be that you lead the country in doubles. So we talk a lot about you don't necessarily want to hit the ball on the ground unless the situation calls for you to hit the ball on the ground. But the best defenders on the team are going to be at shortstop and second most likely. So, you think about in the big leagues, it kind of started there with a ground ball in the big leagues is an out.
Yep.
And it was really an out when they shifted. Now that they banned the shift, it's kind of made baseball, at least a little less predictable. But you kind of saw run production. And again, the big leagues are a hard thing to measure by because they play, 3 times more games than we do. But, we don't talk about hitting home runs, but we do talk about driving the ball and the importance of having some thump in your lineup. So that's been something we've really tried to address in recruiting. And there's a physicality to that. And, the good news is those guys are out there. The bad news is everyone's looking for them. So you got to really work to find those physical guys. But, our staff did a great job. And I think there's just some buy-in of you need to drive the baseball, and they've done a great job with it.
Can you talk a little bit about what's enabled the Bradys and Jackson to kind of get off to the torrid start that they're at the plate?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of Bradys. When they're down, I just say Brady if I need to do anything in the dugout, and I get about 4 or 5 responses. So, one, I think they are, they're really, really talented players. And then you throw on top of that their work ethic is incredible, and they are great teammates. Like those guys are having a lot of fun, and they're enjoying the success. They're enjoying watching all the other guys have success, and probably a little bit oblivious to their own because they're so wrapped up in just what the team's doing. So I think it starts with they're really talented, and Coach Hancock does a really good job of, and Brandon does this on the pitching side too, of, hey, here's who you are, here's how we can help you get better. But ultimately, like we have no molds or cookie cutters of how we're going to make you look. So we try to make everyone, hyper individualized in terms of their process. And those guys are really in tune with who they are, what their approach is. And then, we've tried to get those guys to understand, hey man, hitting's hard and you got to gamble. Like if you're going to take a swing, take a swing. If you watch a big league game and a guy will whiff and look terrible, like breaking ball hits the plate and, that you have to, like, if you try to sit on a breaking ball and a fastball, it's the surest way to make sure you don't play. Like you have to take away one of them. And those guys they pick their spots. They're very intelligent and I think above all, they're great teammates and they just love to compete.
I wanted to touch on pitching as well. You guys are about to start conference play. That means you're going to be looking at 3-game series, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. How do you feel your starting rotation is at right now? Obviously, Dom Bagley maybe hasn't had the start you were hoping for, but considering being a preseason pitcher of the year, but where are you at with that? And are you confident in your group that you can get things going in conference play?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, Dom. Expectations are always a funny thing. I think about Kansas basketball. Like I was thinking about KU basketball last year. I think they were a 4 seed in the tournament. Just to put into perspective, they would have been hosting a regional in baseball last year, which is, that's an incredible accomplishment. But we're so used to Kansas basketball being, the 1 seed of the entire thing that expectations are just funny. And Dom Bagley kind of falls into that. If you look at his numbers, he's striking out a guy and a half an inning, and he's literally had like 3 rough innings the whole year, and it kind of inflated his numbers. So I joked the other day of all the things in my life that I have to sort out and figure out and worry about and pray about and all that stuff. Dom Bagley is not even in the top 3,000 on that list. Like I'm not worried about him at all. I can't wait to hand him the ball tomorrow night. So I think it starts there. We've got other pieces we're still trying to figure out. I think that the pen is we showed last year that when you have a good bullpen, it really changes the game. And Cranton was such a lockdown guy last year. And we are still trying to figure out those exact pieces in terms of, like, Breckheimer and Lynn are the two guys at the back end, but how we get to the 8th and the 9th, we have way more pieces than we did a year ago. So I think trying to piece that together, and then how does that affect starting? Like, Malachi Vitak is a really, really good pitcher. And, we go back and forth on, he's super effective coming in and throwing his sweeper and riding his fastball. But, that might look really good on Sunday in the starting role too. That might look really good on Tuesday in a midweek. And, Patrick Stites is still climbing back from his TJ rehab. So he's going to start somewhere. What does that look like? So it's hard because it's still early in the year in terms of, we're still trying to figure out all the roles, which is not uncommon. I think if you look around the Big 12 and you wrote down every starter this weekend, and then we looked up in 5 weeks, it would be different for a lot of teams. But I feel great about the staff. Feel really good about the pieces. It just, Brandon and I need to do a really good job of making sure we, slot them the right way. And, it's funny. We spend 99% of my life thinking about, what you do in the bullpen. And, and then you ask a big league manager, hey, what was your, Matt Cortero and I were talking this off season. I said, what was the, biggest thing that you had to deal with last year? Like the question that you're always trying to solve. And he's like, well, when did it go to the bullpen? And then, I run into other buddies of mine in pro ball. Hey, what was your biggest stressor? When to go to the bullpen? And all my peers, when to go. So I think it's just the nature of managing a baseball game of when you point your finger down to the pen. But I feel great about our options, and we just need to continue to get them slotted right.
You made a comment last week about the fan support, and you talked about the energy with your players. Obviously, the energy over at Old Hoagland is pretty high level right now. I mean, it's not just the cool thing for people who are in Lawrence or KU baseball fans. It's something that's getting talked about almost on a national stage from a college baseball standpoint. What has that been like for you to experience so far this year?
Well, it's nuts. I mean, it is straight up nuts. And I mean, I want to put this into perspective. I came here from LSU, and that place that's a bucket list place for any college baseball fan. And the experience of a game at Alex Box Stadium is really special. And I'll always remember that. And then, you think of the other unbelievable places I've coached in regionals and super regionals and super revved up, frenetic environments. And, we hit a home run. We hit the home run. Diggins hits the home run to tie the game the other night. And, I felt something on the back of my neck. And, my first thought was like, it's probably the pitchers. They're just jacking around. We're locked in trying to win a game, and the guys that don't even have spikes on are spraying water all around our dugout, which they're having fun. But then the next thing came down, and they're like, "We need beer shower." Like, there's beer showering into the dugout, and I look up on the net, and and then when we walked it off, it was like all of a sudden there are fans storming the field, and I thought, these things have never happened in a baseball game. And then the band. I mean, literally, I thought our guys were when the band was warming up and playing all their songs pregame. It's an incredibly frenetic environment, and the cool part about it is, our marketing team does an incredible job, and our director of operations, Luke Marbach, is the best in the business, and we're in a constant. Our guys were handing out donuts the other day to people who were camping out for basketball. So we try to engage as much as we can and do our job there. But there was no like, hey, let's try to get the Rowdies fans from Kansas and get them all above our dugout. Like that was just a natural thing. And I told the guys, hey, this is a couple things. One, you guys should feel really good that you've played well and that we've got a great product to watch and you guys are competing and people love watching people compete. And then I, have said that number two, Jayhawk Nation is incredible. And it's not surprising that people are turning out because our fan support has always been amazing. And you take out the insane student section, and really, I've never experienced anything like I'm hoarse because I have to yell at our players on second base, like to have them hear me. Like I've been screaming out to second base, like it was really weird being up in US Bank Stadium because you can hear everything. So I could whisper and the guy could hear me at second base. But out here, I'm screaming at those guys just to get their attention to put a sign on. But you take the students out, like you just take out that section and you look at everyone else. I mean, there are a million families up there. It's hard to find a seat right now. And so I think it's really rewarding to the players to know that people have paid attention. And then two, it's a great, I think, milestone for us in our build to know, okay, we've tapped into some things here and people are excited about it. So now we also know we need to continue to do our job and play well and compete hard and all that stuff. But yeah, I've never experienced an environment like this. It's really crazy.
Well, and beyond that, I mean, just how much do you think that helps your team on the field, playing in front of that fan base? I mean, how much do you think that gives them energy? How much do you think that benefits you guys out there playing?
Well, it gives them a ridiculous amount of energy to the point where I spent, they're used to it now, but those first couple games, I spent the whole game trying to just calm them down. They were trying, every guy leading off an inning was trying to hit a grand slam with no one on base and, just try to do so much. But I think what that does, we're going to experience that at some point. We're going to go, we'll go on the road soon and, there will be an environment that is not, super favorable for the Jayhawks. We'll have we've got multiple places in our league where you show up and the energy is in the other direction. And that fuels you too. But I think experiencing it early in the year at home in a non-conference setting is really critical because it prepares you. And we talk so much about adrenaline of, hey, that angst you feel before a game, those butterflies before an at-bat, like that is literal adrenaline. Like they use it to keep people alive. So it's an incredible tool. It's a superpower you have, but you have to funnel it in the right direction. Well, 500 frat guys going crazy above our dugout, that will give you plenty of adrenaline, but you've got to focus it and put it through that filter. But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's an incredible home field advantage. Opposing teams have certainly noticed it and commented on it, and it's just it makes for an incredible environment.
The Big 12, it's always a tough baseball conference. Heading into conference play, what are maybe the things that you have circled or the things that you're working on to keep this momentum going and start off strong in league play?
Yeah, boring answer is Baylor tomorrow night. That's the only. And really, I've just survival in this business is you just, we practiced later today and, kind of before we jumped on the call here, I've just thinking through exactly what we want to do. And, I think I always look at trends, which way are you trending? What's getting better? What's getting worse? What can you measure? And so I think that the big one for me will always be the strike zone. Are we getting better at that? Are we getting worse at that? And then, there are some things with tweaking of the lineup. Like we get, Derek Serta was out for a couple games and, what we did with the lineup with him out is very different from what we do with him in. So, I think that the things that I would circle right now are where are we trending? What personnel are we going to have available? And then, where in the areas that we have, I think losing, you learn a lot more from, well, I say this, you should learn the same from winning and losing. It's just easier to learn it from losing, because when you win, there's a tendency to just, oh man, great job, we won. Well, we do a pretty good job, I think, of digging through every win and every loss and really looking at, okay, where did we give up runs? Where did we give away free bases? Where did we, where were we behind in the count offensively? Who saw the least number of pitches? Who saw the most number of pitches? So we look at all that stuff to just see the trend. So, we've done a really bad job over the last 5-6 games of giving up runs early. So, that's something we need to address. We need to do a better job early in the game. And, the late inning heroics are great, but, so is an 8-1 win with no drama. So, I think the foundational pieces of competing and being a great teammate, I'll check that box every day of paying attention to that. But other than that, man, it's boring baseball answers of winning the strike zone and making sure you have guys in the right position.
There you go.
Coach, one final question for you, for fans that have been listening or maybe have been wondering about possibly getting out and supporting you guys. What would you tell them? What would be sort of your final pitch to a fan and say, hey, come out to a game and enjoy it over the course of the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think baseball is, and I'm biased, obviously, but I think when I go to a baseball game, I'm watching baseball. Like I go watch the Royals, and I'm locked in. It's an 0-1 count. I want to know what they're throwing. Like I'm watching it from that perspective. But there are plenty of times when, I'm watching my kids play where I don't know what the count is, and I'm just enjoying watching people compete. And I think it's so awesome at baseball when you go to a game and realize there are people who literally are not even watching the game. It's a social sport. There, we've got cornhole set up in back. They got the kid zone. They've got a million things going on. And so what I'd say about baseball is it's an incredible sport for just bringing people together. Now, part of that is our games are so much longer than every other sport. My brother's a hockey coach, and I'm like, dude, you're so smart. 60 minutes, and the buzzer goes off after the third period. And you kind of know when it's going to end. Our games, I never know when they're going to end. There are times when you're like, we may be here forever, but I think what that creates is an incredible environment to, you can, if you are the most locked in, intense baseball fan of all time, you will love watching us play. Bill James, by the way, one of like my all-time heroes, was out there the other day, and I'm, they say you don't want to meet your heroes, so I am nervous about meeting Bill someday because he's maybe the most influential person in my career from an understanding of. I read Moneyball in like 20 minutes and then went on this like, I've read more about Bill James than anyone in the universe. But so Bill James can come to our game and really enjoy it and watch baseball and look at it through one of the greatest minds that's ever looked on the game of baseball. But so can someone that doesn't know how many outs there are in an inning, and they can enjoy a great experience. So I would say it's a sport for families. It's a sport for someone that wants to sit in the sun and just to enjoy a day outside. But I will say this. Anyone that loves to watch people compete will love watching us because our guys stinking compete, man. Like they are into it and they want to win and they play extremely hard and they do not care what the score is on the scoreboard. They just keep going.
Sport for people who love hot dogs as well. You guys have Dollar Dog Night coming out on that.
Yeah, we do. And we always have something going on. And our marketing team is phenomenal. And Luke Marbach, like I said, Luke Marbach. I'm going to vote for him for president the next time around. He is such a stud and does such an amazing job with the operational side and all the things that go into that. So we always have something going on. And hey, we're open to suggestions too. Like this is uncharted territory for us in terms of some of the things that are happening on the fan side, and we want to continue to accommodate.
Well, you heard the man. Go out, support Kansas baseball. It's fun. It's a great opportunity. Conference play starts this weekend. Coach Dan Fitzgerald from the baseball team. Coach, can't thank you enough for your time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Rock Chalk.
Rock Chalk. That was the Pay Podcast for Kevin Flaherty, and I'm Nick Springer, and for Coach Dan Fitzgerald. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again soon. See ya.